Gunnerside Gill is a picturesque valley in the Yorkshire Dales, branching off from Swaledale to the north of the village of Gunnerside. Once a centre for lead mining in the 18th and 19th centuries, the valley still displays abundant evidence of its industrial past. Starting in the village of Gunnerside, my Gunnerside Gill walk takes me through 7 miles of stunning Yorkshire Dales countryside. On my website, paulbeal.com, you'll find lots of information about my walk, including directions, maps, walk statistics, parking advice, details about Gunnerside Gill, and a selection of my photos. This is Gunnerside Beck, just under half a mile north of Gunnerside. At roughly this point, a path branches off to the right, climbing the valley side. This path, however, is sometimes overgrown, so it's often better to stick to the second path that stays close to the beck. I continue along the narrow path beside Gunnerside Beck. The beck cuts through the steep-sided valley known as Gunnerside Gill, flowing southward towards the River Swale. As I follow the path through the valley, it gently rises, with the beck below on my left. This path is full of character and enjoyable to walk along. After about a third of a mile climbing up through the valley, the path leads me through Birkbeck Wood, temporarily taking me away from the beck. I pass a large moss-covered boulder near a tree, and know I'll soon emerge into the open countryside on my right. Looking over a dry stone wall at the edge of Birkbeck Wood, I get a classic view of the Yorkshire Dales. A stone barn nestles into the hillside, with dry stone walls marking historic boundaries of fields or grazing land up the slopes. Low Scar, a rocky outcrop, is visible at the hilltop. At the northern end of Birkbeck Wood, I pass through a small wooden gate in the dry stone wall and enter the beautiful pasture land called Winterings. I continue through this lovely pasture land. Ahead, I notice spoil heaps, signalling that I'm approaching a historic lead mining site. I arrive at the Sir Francis dressing floor. Lead mining in Gunnerside Gill dates back to the 15th century, peaking from the 17th to the late 19th centuries. The Sir Francis level, a major venture started in 1864 by Sir George Dales, aimed to tap into deep-lying deposits, but never became commercially successful. Here, the dressing floor was where the lead ore, or galena, was crushed and sorted before smelting. The site features a particularly fine set of boost teams, stone chambers used to store ore-rich material before it was processed. I continue further north, still walking by the beck along a beautiful footpath. Shortly, the path will lead me off to the right, climbing the valley side and taking me away from the beck. As I make my way through the countryside, I notice a derelict 2-storey stone building across the beck. Currently, I'm on the east side, while this old building sits on the west bank, right by the water. Crossing the beck is not always possible, but today the water level is low enough for me to cross safely. The building is part of the Sir Francis level and may have been the engine house of the Sir Francis level air receiver. Close to the 2-storey stone building is the Sir Francis level air receiver. When miners began driving the Sir Francis level into Gunnerside Gill in 1864, they used hand-bored shot holes and black powder. In 1870, however, Sir George Dales introduced compressed air drills, marking the first use of this technology in a Yorkshire mine. The water wheel-driven compressor and air receiver provided ventilation, removing the need for air shafts and allowing men to work continuously. Now about 1 3/4 miles north of Gunnerside, I continue my Gunnerside Gill walk, high up on the valley's eastern side. Looking left, I see Botcher Gill Nook, a distinctive cut in the landscape that I'll cross later. A little further on, I spot the impressive rocky outcrop of Swinnerbank Scar up to my right. Looking west from Swinnerbank Scar, I see a large, disused spoil tip and derelict stone buildings. My Ordnance Survey map shows that this is the site of the disused Dolly lead level. This landscape is endlessly fascinating. As I continue north past Swinnerbank Scar, I have a wonderful view of Gunnerside Beck in the valley below on my left. I reach the Bunting Mine and dressing floor, located about 2¼ miles north of Gunnerside. The bunting level was the main access to the workings on Gunnerside Gill's east side, with mining activity here dating back to the late 18th century. The dressing floor features well-preserved boost teams for storing ore before dressing, as well as remains of a water-powered crushing mill and a smithy. At the bunting level, a signpost offers a choice. I could descend into the valley via the public footpath on the left, but I choose to stay at a higher level and follow the signs to Blakethwaite Dams. Keeping to the higher path gives me a bird's eye view of Blakethwaite Smelt Mill before I descend into the valley to explore it. Where Blind Gill makes Blakethwaite Gill, I reach one of the highlights of my Gunnerside Gill walk. There's an immense amount of history here. I arrive at Blakethwaite Smelt Mill. Mining output from the Upper Gunnerside Gill mines increased sharply in 1819, promoting the construction of this smelt mill. Operational by 1821, the mill used peat and coal to fuel 2 ore hearths, processing ore from the Blakethwaite and Lonathwaite mines. The fumes were drawn up a flue to a now demolished chimney on the crag above. At Blakethwaite Smelt Mill, a large stone slab serves as a footbridge over the beck. From the footbridge, I look north into Blakethwaite Gill. There's a public bridleway leading further up the valley towards Blakethwaite Dams, but I'll save that adventure for another day. After crossing the footbridge, I look back at the derelict mine buildings. There's so much to see here. I decide to pause and enjoy my lunch before continuing. Now heading south on the valley's western side, I pass North Hush, marked on the Ordnance Survey map as part of the disused Lonathwaite lead mines. I pass through Botchergill Gate, where a waterfall cascades over the hillside. The water has carved a narrow channel known as Botchergill Nook. I saw this feature earlier from the eastern side of the valley. My route continues south across Silver Hill. Looking east across Gunnerside Gill, I see Wintering's Scar, part of Wintering's Edge and Melbeck's Moor. More disused spoil heaps line the hillside, reminders of the lead mining industry. Following the path along Silver Hill's eastern slopes, I enjoy superb views. Below, Gunnerside Beck meanders through the valley of Gunnerside Gill, flowing towards the River Swale. The hills on Swaledale's south side, including Blee Barth, Pickerstone Ridge and High Carl, create a stunning backdrop. From this vantage point, I can see the barn at Wintering's and the Sir Francis dressing floor, both of which I passed earlier. Continuing along the slopes of Jingle Pot Edge, I look east and see the rocky outcrop known as High Scar at the very top of the steep hillside. The landscape is dotted with fields and dry stone walls, classic features of the Yorkshire Dales. Rounding Jingle Pot Edge, I'm greeted by stunning views to the east, right across the Swaledale Valley floor, with the village of Gunnerside visible below. Continuing my Gunnerside Gill walk, I cross a bridge over Shaw Gill and follow the road towards Ivelet. Upon entering Ivelet, a small hamlet in Swaledale, I turn left just past the red telephone box. Leaving Ivelet, I have slightly less than a mile to go. The path heads east across several fields, passing through gates in dry stone walls. Halfway along this final stretch between Ivelet and Gunnerside, I look to my right and see the River Swale below. I'm nearly back in Gunnerside. The village lies just ahead, marking the end of a memorable day. If possible, have a look at my website, paulbeal.com, for information about my walk, including directions, maps, walk statistics, parking advice and details about Gunnerside Gill.